Hi.
We're hot.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you for being here today. I appreciate your attendance. I would presume that people have seen things like this in stores, antique malls like rodeos. We've got one coming up, San Antonio's rodeo that's going on. You've got saddles that are hand tool. Tool saddles, I'll tell you up front, are nice. They look pretty, but when you spend hours riding on that tooling, it makes for an awful sore day. We have checkbook covers, we have purses, we have suitcases, we've got garbage cans, we've got all kinds of things that people have been turning leather into good usable goods. There are a few basic tools that a leather artisan will use when he plies his trade. Some of the tools that he uses will be discussed here. I'll give you a brief history, or not a history, but discussion of how they're used and how we actually get from a plain piece of leather such as this into a finished product such as this. Doesn't make any difference how complicated or intricate the design is. It's always going to have the same basic procedures to it. Many of the tools that we use for leather crafting, even just practice pieces, can turn out to be good things, like the coasters that I made when I practiced different designs and different tools that I got. Also, what I did is I ended up having to make design pieces for the different designs for belts and things like that that I've made for people. Guitar straps. David's seen the guitar straps that I've made. A leather artisan attempts to take a plain piece of leather like this and turn it into a beautiful design. The design is carved into the leather using a swivel knife and then tooled with hand stamps. When I design a piece, if David wanted something, I have to figure out exactly what he wants. Is it a holster, a wallet, gun belt, guitar strap? Then I have to figure out what kind of use he wants for it. Will it a light piece of leather work, or does it have to be a heavier duty piece of leather? So I gather my materials. It could be in a kit such as this, where everything is in there, or I might have to take a bigger piece of leather and cut pieces out to put the kit together. I gather all the tools in one spot, and then I start putting the design on the leather. Some of the basic tools that we'll use when we start talking about designs, we start talking about getting the design from the paper or out of my head onto paper, and then from the paper onto a piece of tracing film, and then from the tracing film onto a piece of leather like this. When I put the pattern onto the leather, I have to make sure the leather is moistened. You don't want it real wet, but you don't want it real dry either. It has to be a true moisture content where it'll cause the leather to burnish and turn brown. Some of the basic tools that we use in leather crafting: a mallet to hit the stamps with, assorted stamps that have a chrome finish to it so it doesn't mar the leather, a swivel knife to cut with, a sponge to keep it wet with. I normally have a big block of granite that I tool on for a hard backstop, dyes and finishes, laces, and sewing on them. So once a design is selected, it's traced onto the tracing film, like I said. It's put on the leather and then cut and tooled into it. Once the work is done, you have to let the leather dry completely before you put any kind of stains, finishes, or antiques on it. And then you have to let that dry before you can put the finish coat on it and then ultimately put it together. So there are many tools that we use. Some of them are simple like this. Other ones get into complications or complicated machines like big sewing machines and polishing machines. Regardless of the piece of work that we have, if it's a hand tool design, it's going to have the same basic steps and procedures to make that design come to life. Many beautiful and exquisite articles of clothing, furniture, and equipment are made from handcrafted, hand-tooled leathers, and it'll last a lifetime. A lot of them become heirlooms. Even the most complicated designs are exacted into the leather using the same basic principles and steps. So thank you very much for your cooperation. I appreciate your attention.